So the little waistbands that come with hoodies or long sleeve shirts can be a little too tight around my hips. So I would usually just cut off that little waistband part, but then the shirt ends up being too short on me. So I thought I would just make a new waistband for the shirt. I'm calling it a waistband because I don't know what else to call this piece of fabric besides a waistband, so that's what we're just gonna keep calling it for the rest of the video. So I'm just gonna lie down the shirt flat on a table with a cutting mat, and I'm just gonna lie out the fabric to the length that I want it to be. So the way I have the fabric folded over right now is the length and the width of the piece of fabric that I'm going to be sewing onto the hoodie. So once I have it folded up and pinned to where there are no little wrinkles, I'm going to go in with the ruler and my little circular cutter and cut off the excess or where the raw edges, just so when I'm sewing in the machine, the pieces of fabric are completely straight. I didn't show this part on camera, but on the bottom of the hoodie, you can see there is some black thread, and I did that with the serger, but then I seam ripped it all off, so when I added the new waistband and flip it right side out, you're not going to see the original black thread from the serger poking out as well. So you can see where I am cutting, I left like a good inch or two of extra fabric. When you're cutting fabric, you also want to keep in mind the seam allowance, which is where the foot of the sewing machine sits and where the fabric gets sewn together. The seam allowance takes away some of the fabric from your original measurement, and not accounting for the seam allowance can throw off how the fabric fits onto the other pieces of fabric that you're trying to sew. I hope that's making sense. So now that I have that somewhat waistband rectangle shape, I am just folding over the fabric, seeing what pattern I want facing on the outside. So for this hoodie, instead of one long piece of fabric, I went in with two pieces of fabric that I'm going to have to sew together to make one long piece of fabric. So right here I am showing you with the clear ruler how much fabric I am going to take off, so the edges of the waistband can meet perfectly and then they fit the circumference of the hoodie. So I just wanted to fold back the waistband so you can see which side of the pattern is going to be facing out once it's all sewn together. I'm just kind of playing around with the waistband because it's a lot longer than I expected, but overall it's good and it's just something I would wear if I'm going to bed or doing some yard work. I'm just going to pause it right here because I thought I was done with this hoodie, but I didn't really like how big the neckline got after I cut off the actual hoodie from the shirt. The only way I could think of raising the neckline is to make the arms of the hoodie a little smaller, and I didn't really like that this hoodie was a little baggier anyway. I'm lying down this other hoodie I have just to get an idea of how much smaller I want to make the arms. The reason why I am cutting into the top of the arm and not the bottom of the arm is because this will help raise the neckline of the hoodie. Since I'm making the arms a little tighter and I want this hoodies to still look seamless, I decided to seam rip the cuffs off of the hoodie. Since the end of the armhole is going to get a little smaller, these cuffs are also going to get a little smaller. So I thought I would just seam rip them and then cut them down a little smaller so when I reattach them, they will fit perfectly in the little armhole. And I also went in with the Seam Fix seam ripper, and this comes with this really cool top, and it's like a rubbery or a silicone top, and it helps flick away the little pieces of thread when you seam rip them off. So this is how the neckline looks. I also went in with a little V-cut just to help open it up a little bit more. On the left side of the hoodie, I definitely need to cut it a little bit more because it's a little tight on that side. But overall, I really like the fit much better. Since I raised the neckline, the Aztec pattern actually fits right on my hips, as before it was kind of down to my butt. So again, this is another hoodie that I cut off the waistband and then I just serged the bottom of it. And here is the original waistband of that hoodie, and then that darker waistband is from another hoodie. So I thought I would just combine these two waistbands to make one long waistband and just add that to the hoodie. Just like the tie-dye hoodie, there was thread on the bottom of the hoodie just so the fabric wouldn't fray. But off camera I completely seam ripped all of that thread off, and you want to do that because when you're serging on the new waistband, you'll be basically working with a clean slate, and your serger isn't competing with the other pieces of thread that are there, because it's gonna have to punch through those pieces of thread and not just the fabric. It was just easier for me to get rid of the little serge bottom that I had. So once I have the two waistbands cut up and serged together to make one long waistband, I'm just going to cut off the raw edges and make sure everything's all nice and straight and ready to go into the serger. Here is the hoodie once it is finally done. I hope this video inspired you to alter your clothing, and thank you for watching.